Frankly, what we're seeing is because they already have control of that end host and they can ask for any information, they ask for all the details they need to have to phone up the bank or to change online the cell phone number or the where the messages are actually going to go to. We see them using standard VoIP services, which are changing caller IDs numbers, so they can send messages back and forth as well. So they're actually proxying the SMS messages through this way. Okay. It's not sophisticated stuff. It's just a little lateral thinking on how to integrate these accounts. So what can we sort of say from a security perspective, given that we've just broken the latest banking technologies and anti-theft protection? Key thing we have to understand really is that cyber criminals, and this is cybercrime and it's big, it's massive scale, is really focused on the bank's own customers. Okay, so that's the elephant in the room. So security consultants really need to understand the threat and be able to communicate the remediation advice on this. So the question then comes, how do you protect your clients from their own customers? Okay. And at the heart of the most advanced things is really the applications themselves, the things that you're asking all those banks or those web applications are trying to do is too complex for the vast majority of people actually out there. So the more complex the application is, the more opportunity there are to social engineer and insert additional requests and additional content through the malware. So what sort of things that we need, do we need to sort of think about when we're looking at web applications and helping design web application, providing security advice? We have to reduce complexity. So for instance, is it likely any additional pages or fields would actually be spotted by a customer? Okay. So if there's 20 pages to this web application that they have to go through sequentially, would 21 pages be noticed or 19 pages? More often than not, no chance. Okay. Is it clear to the customers what's actually expected of them? Are they supposed to follow this particular process? Okay. How many pages must a customer actually navigate or scroll through to actually do a transaction or to actually do their business? Are all the steps logical? Are important questions and steps presented as text or graphics? That one's actually pretty important because if you present it as text, it's HTML, okay, and it's just injected in the HTML code. If the question or the page numbering is in a graphic format, that means that graphic has to be pulled from a file, okay, and that's normally enough in most current generation browsers to break the padlock or to say that you have now got multiple zones or insecure zones. Unfortunately, most people are so used to seeing messages saying, do you want to carry on? They'll just say, carry on anyway. Okay, so there's only so much you can do on this. Okay. Have a look at the page design and the way that the page is constructed, and are there any indicators that are watermarking so that a user or customer will be able to identify that changes have been made? Not an easy one to do there. And the last one is really look at the interface and provide advice of how can these things be simplified? Can it all be reduced down to a single page? Other things to look at. Okay, so a key one, which is really catching out, in fact, just about all the bank applications are bad at this, is can the customer change everything online? Okay, so all the stuff about SMS texting of your transaction. Okay, if the user can log into their bank account and set which phone number they want that message to go to, and the malware or the attacker already has access to their bank account, they can set that number. So what's the purpose of having that process? So the attacker, by compromising that web application, now can compromise the other out-of-band validation processes. Okay. So what out-of-band verification changes are there? So if someone is actually using out-of-band and those details have changed, how do they get notified that those changes actually happened? So if I now change my mobile phone number or cell phone number to receive these messages, how do I know that that number's actually changed? Okay. Another one, are there delays before these things actually happen? So even this malware is done in real time, is it reasonable to expect a 2 or 3 day delay before those new changes come into action? How visible are customer changes? So when someone logs in, is there any indication that things have changed for them and what has changed? All pretty obvious stuff. Okay. And a key one really for banking applications is While they can modify the HTML codes and modify balances as they appear in the pages, if there are other devices for keeping track of those balances, such as print statements that come in the post and PDF or signed PDF or encrypted PDF documents that have the real balances. Unfortunately, that requires an education of the end customer to be able to, to balance these different information sources. On the back-end processing, there are a number of things that we can sort of look at as well. Okay, and a lot of it can be done through thresholds. Okay, so how many transactions are actually being conducted by that user per minute? Is it reasonable to expect that they can do 2 transactions within a millisecond? You can also look at creating a delay between the creation of a new payee account and actually sending through that, transferring that money. You can also look at some of the anomaly detection of transfers. So, are you seeing the same 2 addresses appearing multiple times, the frequency of those 2 addresses or those 2 accounts, and can you also look at the frequencies of accounts being used, so the mule accounts that are acting as the receiver for these fund transfers. And of course, the last thing is the identity changes. So if someone suddenly changes their primary contact number from a home phone number to a cell phone number, you might want to sort of raise or escalate your internal processes for auditing or inspecting that traffic subsequently. So what can we sort of say in conclusions? Well, first of all, banking Trojans are really advanced. Okay, it's more advanced than most of the brain power in this room, I'm sure. Okay. It's already out there. It's a tried and tested technology. To give you an idea of the scale of things, so 2006, State Department released a report for 2006 that said that losses in North America for cybercrime, i.e. mostly banks, and that was higher than the total illegal drugs trade in North America. So it's about $100 billion a year. Okay. IBM, on public records, is about a $100 billion company, and if you look at those statements, you'll see that about 16% of all that money goes towards R&D. We're seeing the same amount, percentage of time dedicated to R&D, and probably a little bit higher by the criminals that are working on this. So, 16, 18, $20 billion a year spent on R&D developing these tools. That's more than the worldwide purchasing of antivirus, firewalls, IDS technologies. Okay. So people sort of ask you about, are we being beaten by the criminals? Like, hell yeah, they're outspending us. Okay. So man-in-the-browser attacks, vectors are unaffected by authentication validation technologies. Okay. This is big business. There's big money to be had in there. It's very well organized. It's very popular. It's very easy to get started in it. Okay. You have to assume that customer details can be gained just by asking them. Okay. So not only do you have to worry about the fact that 1/3 of your customer base probably is already compromised, but any of those people, any of the confidential details that they have in their heads can probably just be asked for by the attackers. Okay. And the last part is really about how do you simplify things and really think of security ergonomics and this whole thing of trying to reduce the complexity and make it as simple as possible. So with that, hey, on time. I'll take any questions. Question at the back.
Is one browser more vulnerable than the other to this type of attack?
At the moment, it's all about business. It's a numbers game. So the most popular web browsers are the ones that have the most specialized software advances being practiced on them. And of course, the most popular web browser versions are the ones that have